It is the last trading day of the stock market, and we need to see what's going on. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and do you know which artist is most excited for January 1st? It's Van Gogh, because he's going to have a happy new year. We're going to take a look at the indices to give updates, a few stocks that I handpicked from there, and then also I want to take a look at crypto because it is getting very interesting with what's going on, especially with Bitcoin, and I want to share it out on this channel. And I'm also going to tell you about where you can see my buys and sells, and also about my options course, and brand new to this channel, about where you can see the bread recipe from StockMo and my part in that course. In the meantime, I do want to get over to the technicals on this thing, so we're going to start off with SPY. So pop that down, pop this up, and we'll collapse that right there. There we go. Take a look at the rising wedge pattern that we have. And I even extended the ends of this to come down even further than what they were before. And these white lines that are going all the way across the screen, those are long-term trends that we see. We're looking at the daily chart. RSI, still in the overbought territory, lower than it was before. We want to keep on watching. If the price keeps rising, RSI keeps falling, that could build some bearish divergence for us. We don't have enough information on that yet as per the daily chart. You can actually go down to lower time frames such as the 4-hour chart to see what's going on there. And we actually have rising prices, and then we have falling momentum that we have here. That's something worth watching. We could possibly break out the bottom of this rising wedge, and sometime soon we could see a pullback in the indices. So that's something that I'm actively monitoring. And then if we go over to the Qs, you're going to see much the same thing. Same rising wedge pattern that we have here. A slight decline that we have. Let's go to the 4-hour to see if we have the same bearish divergence there with the RSI. And it looks like we actually have across some of the tops here, not as clear as what we have with SPY, but still across those peaks that we have that drop in momentum, although across the bottom here we have more of a narrowing taking place with QQQ, which tracks the NASDAQ 100. And I want to share something with you as per the bread recipe, the day trading, which also works in non-intraday levels, so higher levels up from that could span multiple days, multiple weeks, multiple months with the moving averages and stuff. And if you watch my live stream yesterday with StockMo, I actually have updated technicals that I do throughout that, where you can see me draw on some of these lines to watch and see some of the different support and resistance that's out there, some of the different trends. This is one of those intraday trends that built for us, and so I was tracking that. And you can see what happened when we broke down below that trend line over here solidly, and then we also had this minor trend here, and then right here, this was the major support intraday that we had going on. And when that broke, we actually came down pretty significantly from there, came back and retested it, and then sold off into the close. And also this white line that you see right here that's going all the way across the screen, that is the bottom of that rising wedge pattern that we have, which we've broken out of, and it's possible that we see a little bit more of a fall. We'll see what today brings. Now we have 412 as resistance, and we have 409, and 410 is also in there, which I don't have that line out there, but I'll put that line up there for you. So let's put 410 in there, Command copy, Command paste, there we go. And 410 is right there is about where 410 is for us, and I can notch that down a little bit to see where that should be. So that's what we have for the Qs. IWM, we have a little bit more of the same thing going on here. You can actually see a little bit of the bearish divergence happening here. This peak isn't quite low enough. We're still in the overbought territory, so we have some of those peaky, lofty prices, at least for right now. That doesn't mean that we can't run up higher. I'm not trying to talk as a bear on this thing. I do think that coming back and retesting support would be a good thing, as we did actually earlier with the Russell 2000 stocks with this ETF that does track them. We did come back and retest support, and then we're able to rip higher from there. That's exactly what I want to see with the markets, is that I want to see us pull back, find where support is, and then we have a new launch pad up higher than we were before from the previous launch pad, which should send us up to new highs. That's if we get that. I think it's a possibility that we do. I'm still cautiously bullish on these markets, even if we see a near-term pullback. I think January could still be a strong month for us. So we'll see if that does play out. Even if it has a bit of a mixed start, we're going to have to watch for that. So moving on from there over to Nvidia, and this is the first main stock that I have the cup and handle. Still alive and well for this one. Yesterday, we made it up to a high of 498.84. We almost made it up to 499. We're so close to that 500 line that I have. Actually, this is 505 that's on here, along with these previous peaks, that even if we do manage to break over 500, we still got to worry about 505, going back to the previous all-time high that we had for Nvidia stock price. And should this cup and handle play out, if the markets continue strong into January and well into January, that can be something that really does help out Nvidia to boost up from here and go even more bullish. I still think that this stock should be up over 500, and right now it's just not. The trading multiples, when they do recover, this thing I think is going to pump well beyond 500, and it's going to have 500 as support sometime in the year 2024, that we're not going to worry about it as resistance any longer. That resistance is going to be broken. It's going to be shattered. We'll probably come back down. We'll retest it as support before we go on to put on even higher highs from there throughout the year of 2024 into 2025. I remain bullish on Nvidia. Moving from there into Tesla, we actually broke down through several supports yesterday, and now we have them as resistance. So you can see this line that I have here. I could probably even adjust a little bit to see in the pre-market where we're getting that, but I would rather watch for the regular trading hours to see where that goes. This is the hourly chart. Let's go out to the daily on this one. So looking at the daily chart on Tesla, you can see that slight rising wedge that we are on, possibly falling out of there. And I did say that we finally broke historic resistance that we had. This is the long-term downtrend that goes all the way back into 2021. We peekabooed back up above it before significantly selling off. Now we peekabooed above it again, and then we started selling off. So we'll see if that does come down. We do have all the way down to the 50-day at about 243 for the EMA, and the SMA on this one is at about 233. We have the 200-day nearby to that at about 229. We'll call it 230 because 230 has been a historic support resistance area for us. Then we have the fib shortly after that at about 222.50. So that's what we have for Tesla, and we'll see they have quarterly deliveries coming up on January the 2nd, which means that I need to update my spreadsheet so it's ready to go so I can put in those delivery numbers, and then we'll have our forecast over at the Patreon for the stock price prediction, and also the earnings projections can all be updated up through 2030. As soon as I get those hard delivery numbers on January 2nd, then I can put out that video, and I'll put out the spreadsheet over at the Patreon. So with that said, I think now is a good time to tell you a little bit more about that. So the Patreon is where you can go to see my Tesla and Nvidia stock price predictions and earnings projections for both of those companies. I actively monitor both of their stocks, both of their companies, and then also if you want my options course, that is also available through the Patreon. The link is down in the description. Just go ahead and sign up. You have access to both of those things, and also my Discord where I post my buys and sells, where you can see how I'm playing this market and how to amplify your portfolio through the power of options. And you can talk to me and my stock group, my community that's over there throughout the trading day. They're absolutely wonderful people. We'd love to have you over there. And then finally, the Stock Mode course. If you've been watching it and learning about the bread recipe just through the YouTube videos, you can learn more about technical analysis and really amp up your trading game using the technical analysis course that's over there. My link for this is also down in the description, and you can get a discount on your sign-up fee by using code word DOCTOR, DOCTOR, when you do your sign up. So go ahead and check that out. All right, that said, guys, let's bring it back to the charts here. So for Tesla, we'll see what it looks like. If we stay below this line that we have here for resistance, then I think that we actually have a decent amount that we can pull back from that. But like I said, January 2nd, which is our next trading day after this, is the next time that this opens up, and we have those deliveries to worry about. If we miss the $1.8 million for total 2024, 1.8 million vehicles, my goodness, delivered for 2024, that is something that can really tank Tesla stock price really quickly. So I think there's a lot of de-risking that went into yesterday. We'll see if today is a further drop from there as people exit that position leading up to that catalyst. Not want to get stuck as a bag holder should they miss. Should they make that number, and I do believe that they will make that number, I think that that could be good for Tesla stock price. I think we could see a recovery, and if they exceed the 1.8 million, especially in pretty darn tough global conditions for selling vehicles in the first place, then this is one that we could absolutely see more of an amp moving up in the stock price. And the more significantly we beat the 1.8 million, the better the stock I think will do in the short term. So we're going to have to watch for that, because if they can do well in challenging environments, then when the market starts to get better, because what we see is a decrease in the federal funds rate, which drops down the auto loan rates, then that's something that should also be a good for Tesla and also Tesla stock. And especially if we go into a risk on environment in the stock market, then we get further bullishness from there. And so that's what I think for Tesla. Moving on to crypto, Bitcoin, that inverse head and shoulders. My goodness. If we don't have confirmation yet, we actually have to make it up on this to almost, I'd say 43.8 is the number that we're looking for about where that neckline is at, 43.7, 43.8, breaking through this top part of the trend line here. And then just above that, we also have it about 44.3. We need to break up above those in order to see further bullishness. I do think we could possibly see 45 to 48,000, maybe even 50,000 prior to that ETF decision. Should we see those elevated numbers, I think that further ensures that there's going to be a drop in price before we get the ETF decision. And then once the decision is made, if we get turned down again, I think there could be a further drop. If it's something that gets approved, Bitcoin I think is going to go nuts and absolutely going to exceed that 50,000. Even if it's in the short term, we're just going to have to watch for that and play it accordingly. And you could do so through some of the miners that are out there. In the stock market, I like to use Mara, although it has run up recently. I played it long, made 50% gain, played it short, made I think 18% gain on the drop for that one. So that's been pretty good to play it in both directions, as I tend to do depending on the technicals that are out there. And then I take that money from those options and I'm able to put it more into further investments, either for more options or into my long-term positions. Ethereum bounced off support right at about $2,300 per ETH token. So very nice for us. Got to be careful that we don't run into a double top. We did peekaboo up above it on Thursday. We'll see what today brings. We want to make sure that we keep on moving up. We have room up to 2,500, so we want to be watching for that. Avalanche is one that we actually found support right at about $39 per AVAX. And so for this one, we want to see where that takes us. We actually bounced off the 50 for the RSI, and right now we're heading back up from there. So staying up above that is bullish, and we want to make sure that this doesn't turn into a head and shoulders pattern for us where we'd have that neckline right at $39. So if we come up and we peak out right at about 43, beware that we come back down to 39, because then we can actually confirm the head and shoulders pattern by breaking down below that, and then we get a further sell down to 34 or even possibly below. So those are what things that we want to look out for AVAX. And the last thing is not QQQ. I don't know how I got there. I actually wanted to take it to Solana, and it helps if I actually go to the right one. There we go. Sol USD. We'll use the Coinbase prices that we see on here. And what we're looking at is the minute chart. Let's take it out to the daily chart on this one so we can see more of the movement that we've had for Solana. Look at that rise that we've had. As soon as we broke up through that line of resistance that we had, man, it was like a rocket ship up over 116. Where did it actually peak out? This thing peaked at about 126 before settling back down, came back down, found support around 100, and now our RSI is no longer in the overbought territory. This is one that I think could continue to pump from here. We're going to have to watch and see just how far it retraces from those values. So just keep an eye out for Solana. I think it's going to continue to perform well, and now we actually have this trend line here as support instead of resistance. So keep your eyeballs on that as well. Should we sell down through here, we want to make sure that we're holding on to this blue line of support from the trend line that we have from these recent prices. So let me wrap this thing up for you guys. For the markets, I think short term, I think we could feel a drop possibly in the first week of January, that we might see that based on what I'm seeing right now through the RSI, also through the rising wedge patterns that are out there. Crypto, maybe we're going to get that inverse head and shoulders pattern confirmed through Bitcoin. And if we do, it's off to the races up until we get that decision on January the 10th for the Bitcoin ETF. So we want to be watching for that. It probably will sell off prior to that date. So we want to be watching for that. The sell the news is going to happen before the news does. And then from there, should we get news of approval, you're going to know it immediately by watching Bitcoin's price, because it's going to take off like a rocket ship before you can even get into it. So that could be a case where it's possible that you could even put into, depending on how expensive the premium are for the different options that are out there for the miners, which given the recent implied volatility spike, it's going to be pretty expensive to get into like a straddle or a strangle, but it's still something that maybe we could work out something profitable. We're just going to have to look and see if we can get into the proper direction early enough. It can be wildly profitable for something like that. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see my buys and sells, if you want to see what I got going on for Tesla and Nvidia, use that link for the Patreon down in the description. Also get access to my options course. If you want to see my coursework that I'm doing for Stock Mode, that's going to be available very soon through the Stock Mode course. That link is also down for you. Remember, use the code word Doctor, DOCTOR, to get a discount off your fee. It's a one-time fee, lifetime access, and wonderful technicals. Teach you all about the bread recipe. There's even a Discord attached to it where you can talk to that community. Use it as a personal, professional learning community where you can learn how to take your trading game to the next level using that bread recipe. It's been wildly successful so far, and I anticipate nothing different for you. So moving on from there, don't forget about those down in the description. Those links are there. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.